Hey everybody, welcome once again to An Angel's Reading Room, and we are on section 7 of the Courtship of Miles Standish. And if you remember the last time, we just pretty much listened to a whole conversation between John Alden and Priscilla talking about how maybe they should just stay friends for a while. And yeah, we'll see how that goes, won't we? Yeah. But for today, we're going to find out what's going on with Miles Standish and his fight with the Indians. So, let's not wait any longer. The name of this section, section 7, is The March of Miles Standish. Meanwhile, the stalwart Miles Standish was marching steadily northward, winding through forest and swamp along the trend of the seashore, all day long with hardly a halt, the fire of his anger burning and crackling within, and the sulphurous odor of powder seeming more sweet to his nostrils than all the scents of the forest. Silent and moody he was, and much he revolved his discomfort. He who was used to success and to easy victories always, thus to be flouted, rejected, and laughed to scorn by a maiden, thus to be mocked and betrayed by the friend whom he had most trusted. Ah, 'twas too much to be borne, and he fretted and chafed in his armor. "I alone am to blame," he muttered, "for mine was the folly. What has a rough old soldier grown grim and gray in the harness, used to the camp and its ways, to do with the wooing of maidens? 'Twas but a dream. Let it pass. Let it vanish like so many others. What I thought was a flower is only a weed, and is worthless. Out of my heart will I pluck it and throw it away, and henceforward be but a fighter of battles, a lover, and a wooer of dangers." Thus he revolved in his mind his sorry defeat and discomfort, while he was marching by day or lying at night in the forest, looking up at the trees and the constellations beyond them. After 3 days' march, he came to an Indian encampment, pitched on the edge of a meadow, between the sea and the forest. Women at work by the tents, and the warriors, horrid with war paint, seated about the fire and smoking and talking together, who, when they saw the form from afar off, the sudden approach of the white men, saw the flash of the sun on the breastplate and saber and musket, straightway leaped to their feet, and two from among them advancing came to parley with Standish, and offer him furs as a present. Friendship was in their looks, but in their hearts was hatred. Braves of the tribe were these, and brothers gigantic in stature, huge as Goliath of Gath, or the terrible Og, king of Bashan. One was Pecksuot named, and the other was called Wattawamat. Round their necks were suspended their knives in scabbards of wampum, two-edged trenchant knives with points as sharp as needle. Other arms had they none, for they were cunning and crafty. "Welcome, English," they said. These words they had learned from the traders, touching at times on the coast, to barter and chaffer for peltries. Then, in their native tongue, they began to parley with Standish, through his guide and interpreter Hobomok, friend of the white man, begging for blankets and knives, but mostly for muskets and powder, kept by the white man, they said, concealed with the plague in his cellars, ready to be let loose and destroy his brother the red man. But when Standish refused, and said he would give them the Bible, suddenly changing their tone, they began to boast and to bluster. Then Wattawamat advanced with a stride in front of the other, and with a lofty demeanor thus vaultingly spake to the captain. Now Wattawamat can see by the fiery eyes of the captain, Angry is he in his heart, but the heart of the brave Wattawamat is not afraid at the sight. He was not born of woman, but on a mountain at night, from an oak tree riven by lightning. Forth he sprang at a bound with all his weapons about him, shouting, "Who is here to fight the brave Wattawamat?" Then he unsheathed his knife, and wetting the blade on his left hand, he held it aloft and displayed a woman's face on the handle, saying, with bitter expression and look of sinister meaning, "I have another at home with the face of a man on the handle. By and by they shall marry, and there will be plenty of children." Then stood Peckswat forth, self-vaunting, insulting Miles Standish, while with his fingers he petted the knife that hung in his bosom, drawing it half from its sheath and plunging it back as he muttered, "By and by we shall see, it shall eat, ha! But shall speak not. This is the mighty captain the white men have sent to destroy us. He is a little man. Let him go and work with the women." Meanwhile, Standish had noted the faces and figures of Indians, peeping and creeping about from bush to tree in the forest, feigning to look for game with arrows set on their bowstrings, drawing about him still closer and closer the net of their ambush. But undaunted he stood and dissembled and treated them smoothly, so the old chronicles say, that were writ in the days of the fathers. But when he heard their defiance, the boast, the taunt, and the insult, all the hot blood of his race, of Sir Hugh and of Thurston de Standish, boiled and beat in his heart and swelled in the veins of his temples. Headlong he leaped on the boaster, and snatching his knife from its scabbard, plunged it into his heart, and, reeling backward, the savage fell with his face to the sky and a fiend-like fierceness upon it. Straight there arose from the forest the awful sound of the war whoop, and like a flurry of snow on the whistling wind of December, swift and sudden and keen came the flight of feathery arrows. Then came a cloud of smoke, and out of the cloud came the lightning, out of the lightning thunder, and death unseen ran before it. Frightened, the savages fled for shelter in swamp and in thicket, hotly pursued and beset, but their sachem, the brave Wattawamat, fled not. He was dead. Unswerving and swift had a bullet passed through his brain, and he fell with both hands clutching the greensward, seeming in death to hold back from his foe the land of his fathers. There on the flowers of the meadow the warriors lay, and above them, silent, with folded arms, stood Hobomok, friend of the white man. Smiling at length, he exclaimed to the stalwart captain of Plymouth, "Peckswat bragged very loud of his courage, his strength, and his stature, mocked the great captain, and called him a little man. But I see now big enough have you been to lay him speechless before you." Thus the first battle was fought and won by the stalwart Miles Standish. When the tidings thereof were brought to the village of Plymouth, and as a trophy of war the head of the brave Wattawamat scowled from the roof of the fort, which at once was a church and a fortress, all who beheld it rejoiced and praised the Lord and took courage. Only Priscilla averted her face from the spectre of terror, thanking God in her heart that she had not married Miles Standish, shrinking, fearing almost lest, coming home from his battles, he should lay claim to her hand as the prize and reward of his valor. So Priscilla isn't that impressed with a head of an Indian being posted on the wall. But everybody else, they're impressed because Miles Standish is helping to protect their settlement. I wonder how much work he has left. How much of the story is left to hear about Priscilla and John. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see till next time. I'll see you then.